Welcome, everybody. Joe with ECRM here, and I have with me today Andrea, Leigh, the VP of Strategy for Ideoclick, which works with brands to optimize and execute their e-com strategies. She's also one of the keynote speakers at ECRM's upcoming Global Market Food and Beverage. So, Andrea, thank you so much for joining us. And there's been a lot that's gone on in the e-com world over the past 18 months, for sure. And it has its benefits and challenges for brands. To start off, can you give an overview of the state of the e-com industry for brands right now?
Yeah, absolutely. I think what we're seeing right now is that consumers are certainly returning to physical stores to some degree, but they've got different expectations now. So different expectations around the integration of kind of a digital and physical experience, and obviously demanding more convenience technology as they've been doing, more shopping online and, have been exposed to some more convenience aspects of that, looking for things like cashierless checkout and, different tap to pay and all of those things. And as that's occurring, we're still seeing a sustained lift and a sustained shift to e-commerce. So, some of the stats that we have most recently are that, the e-commerce sales have increased around 39% year over year, which is a pretty big bump. We're seeing some of the categories that are more disproportionately impacted being more recently, obviously food and beverage, and then apparel, kind of seeing the fastest growth rates online. And, the e-commerce penetration as a percentage of total moved from 14.8% pre-pandemic to 19.5% post-pandemic. So a lot of shift to e-commerce. And as that's happening, the retailers are focused on trying to improve their profit margins for e-commerce, because obviously that's a lower profit margin business for them. And the manufacturers are shifting resources internally to try to better support e-commerce customers. And so, a lot of change happening right now, really kind of a tough and exciting time to be a brand manufacturer in today's environment.
And, you bring up a good point. All of these changes happen so fast. So while it's awesome because, a lot of people saw such a big spike in sales, there's got to be a lot of challenges that have come along with that. What are you seeing as far as the challenges that the brands are facing because of this explosive growth?
Absolutely. The brands are facing a lot of challenges. And I think the biggest one is complexity. As they're shifting more of their business from brick and mortar to e-commerce, and even as their retail partners are shifting more of their business from in-store to online, the landscape is getting pretty complex. So, what that looks like is multiple advertising platforms across multiple retailer websites. Amazon used to be kind of the only game in retailer ad networks, but now, we have Walmart, we have Target, we have Walgreens, we have Dollar General. Everyone seems to be launching advertising platforms and figuring out how to allocate budgets and, work across all of those different forms of technology. Super, super complex for the brand manufacturers. In addition, a lot of these e-commerce players have marketplaces or are in the process of launching marketplaces. And those add complexity as well, because you have other sellers selling your products alongside your own, that you're selling directly to the retailer. And there are some complexities, as it relates to pricing and who's contributing the content and the imagery and all of those things, where it can get hairy pretty fast. So I would say kind of that larger, idea of complexity is a big challenge for manufacturers right now. There's another big challenge, which is really kind of trying to understand where the customer is going to be. Everyone wishes they had a crystal ball and they could say whether all the customers are going to return to stores or whether they're going to stay online. And particularly in grocery, we saw such a shift to online during the pandemic. And now we're starting to see people go back to stores, and no one really knows how it's going to all shake out. So really trying to figure out where the customer is going to be so that you can build your advertising and promotion strategies accordingly. And, I think I'm characterizing it as always on shopping. So we are not shopping as purposefully as we used to, where you would have something in mind and you would go to the store or you would go to an e-commerce website. That's certainly still happening. But given our increased interaction throughout the pandemic with, all of the forms of social media and digital experiences, we're shopping all the time. And we're kind of even shopping on accident. And it's not as purposeful as it used to be. So really figuring out, kind of goes back to some of those marketing basics around right customer, right time, right place, right price. If you're targeting someone in their Instagram feed, you're going to have an entirely different message and a different, want to have a different experience for your brand than if you're giving them a vendor powered coupon on Amazon when they're already on the product detail page and ready to check out. So I think that where is the consumer and that always on shopping is presenting some challenges for manufacturers. And then lastly, there are some real tactical challenges that the manufacturers are facing right now as it relates to supply. And the supply chain issues are broad and they're everything from maybe not having enough warehouse space to accommodate the increased demand to not having enough, capacity in manufacturing, or maybe the manufacturing you're sharing it with another, customer of that manufacturer and they're getting priority. There are shortages of shipping containers. There are shortages of long haul truck drivers. There's shortages of trucks. Amazon's certainly facing some different capacity constraints as it relates to hazmat and certain product types and oversized products. Those types of areas and fulfillment centers are at their max. So it's really hard to stay in stock right now. I think it's a challenge, but I think it's also an opportunity to really understand where your competitors are, from a stock perspective, and then adjust your strategy accordingly to try to capture those sales.
So that's really tough because on the one end, right, you're trying to track the shopper journey, which has changed so much. They're going so many more places. They're spending more time online. So like you said, they're going to Instagram, they're going to blogs, they're going to podcasts, they're going to online magazines and everything. And then on the other end, the supply end, you don't know what's coming when and where all the bottlenecks are. How do you figure all that stuff out?
Yeah, I think, first of all, I think the data is more important than it has ever been. Like understanding where the breakdown is in your supply chain, in your advertising strategy, whatever it is, being able to just see what's happening and have that data at your fingertips, I think is super critical right now. You can't be flying blind. This is not the time to fly blind.
For sure.
So I think that's really important. I would also say, having a cohesive and cross-platform strategy is more important than ever before. And when I talk to manufacturers and our clients, that's often one of their biggest questions is, how do I allocate an ad budget across multiple retailer websites? Like, how do I think about assortment strategy cross-platform? Everything you do online as a brand manufacturer now is visible to all the customers and all the retailers. There's no hiding. You can't have, it's not like this retailer can get their in-store promotion and no one's going to see it. Everyone sees it. It's all visible now. It's we're in a very transparent world from a retail perspective. So I think, having a cross-platform strategy is really important. It's not a good time to be shooting from the hip and making it up as you go along. I think those two things are really important. And then I would say the ability to kind of move quickly and pivot. And that's something that isn't necessarily in every brand manufacturer's DNA, moving really quickly and pivoting. We have tended to approach retail as more of a programmatic approach where we say, these are the products we're going to offer. We sell them in. We layer marketing on top of them. We set it and kind of forget it for a little while. And, that's really changed in the last few years, and especially this last year, as so much business has shifted to e-commerce. You need to be looking at what's in stock, what's not in stock, pivot your marketing strategy to make sure it's pointing to things that are available. Make sure you understand what the competitors are doing so you can pivot there too, shifting ad budgets from one retailer to another. So I think that ability to pivot really quickly is absolutely critical right now.
Excellent. So what does Ideoclick do with brands? How do you work with brands to kind of help them accommodate those things and to get that visibility into that whole omni-channel experience?
Yeah, so we consider ourselves to be an e-commerce optimization platform. So we are an e-commerce growth partner. We work with manufacturers on the strategy, on reducing some of that complexity, certainly, on some of the more qualitative but important parts of the business. But we also have a platform that kind of helps enable building that strategy and executing it. And the platform consists of, our Pulse Reveal, which is our browser plugin to allow brand manufacturers to see right when they're on Amazon exactly what's happening with their items, their marketing, their sales, their inventory positions. And it has some kind of one-click actions where they can really, take over an ad or whatever it is. We have our insights dashboard that marries all of the data across vendor, seller, advertising, and some scrape data. And then we have our proprietary share of search technology, which helps manufacturers understand if they're winning the search and who the competitors are, and help us build strategies around that. And then lastly, our Pulse Compliance product, which goes and recovers the retailer fees as it relates to chargebacks and shortage claims with Amazon. So we're a comprehensive provider. We work across all the different components of running a successful e-commerce business. Mm-hmm. And the ad tech platform runs all of the advertising to help with the growth strategies as well. So comprehensive partner across e-commerce growth.
Excellent. Well, certainly a comprehensive solution. So thank you so much. And I look forward to seeing your keynote in a couple of weeks. And for anybody who's interested in learning more about Ideoclick, just go to www.ideoclick.com. That's IDEOclick.com. Again, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Joe.